Joining us on NDTV is Arnold Dix, the brain behind the rescue operation. Thank you very much for speaking with NDTV. You've been a hard person to get on the phone line, so thanks for speaking with us. I want to begin by asking you your first reaction when you saw the first worker being rescued yesterday.
Well, if you could have seen my face, you would have seen some tears, and I think that says it all.
Right.
So I don't think there are words, and also I'm not the brains behind the rescue. I'm just part of the brains behind the rescue. There's people from the federal government, the state government. I'm here right now with DRF, the Uttarakhand rescue team, and everyone. We all just work together to save the people. And I'm maybe one brain cell amongst them all.
You've called this rescue a miracle. Do you honestly believe it's a miracle? Did you lose hope at any time in the last 17 days?
I never lost hope, and I just felt that we were going to bring the men home, and they'd be home safe, and no one would get hurt, and that they'd be, as I think I said on the first day, was they were dancing for Diwali when they went in, and I promised that they would be home to sing Christmas carols at Christmas. And I just believed that was true. I just didn't know how. And so I knew our mission, and the team was just fantastic from India, all the agencies everywhere, and of course the international people that I'm part of. And we all just worked together and made it happen. And I'm so happy.
So how were you roped into this operation? Who called you up? How did you get involved? Can you tell us your story?
Oh, my story is simple. I just got a call from the federal government saying, initially on day one, asking me about what had happened, and so we had a discussion. And then when things didn't go so well, I received a phone call and they just said, can you please come? Of course. And it's like, because that's what you do, that's what good people do. And I've just been overwhelmed by good spirit and kindness and mission that we've got here. And as I say, I'm not done yet. Although it looks like my mission is done, it's not quite done because where am I at the moment? This is where I'm...
We are going to the temple that's located from the rescue site. That's 25 kilometers from the rescue site, and it is top of the hill and known as the Bhoknak Devta. This is the very and the powerful and the very famous in the local region of Uttarkashi. And the blessing of the Bhoknak Devta, we could able to evacuate all the people safely. Also, we are going to kindly bless our whole people and our whole teams and our whole government.
Yes.
So we could meet.
So could you introduce yourself? Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, I'm speaking with Inspector Jagdamba Prasad Bijlwan from the SDRF, State Disaster Response Force, Uttarakhand Police.
Right, sir. So you're from the SDRF. We were speaking with Mr. Arnold. So if you could just hand over the phone to him, because I wanted to understand from him some of the technical specifications of this rescue operation to the lay person like me, or to viewers watching, or to journalists who were covering this story. It did appear, Mr. Arnold Dix, that this was, there were multiple different strategies that were used, multiple different machineries that were used, and finally, ironically, it was the rat miners, something which is banned here in India, outlawed by the Supreme Court in Meghalaya as far as coal mining is concerned. It was finally those manual tunneling efforts, manual drilling efforts that bore fruit. Did you anticipate that to happen?
Yeah, I did, actually. So that actually was part of the advice that I gave, because what I could see was with every bigger machine that we used, the reaction of the mountain was more severe. And so you would have covered over the time that the auger machine kept blowing up, breaking, everything was going wrong. And my view was we need to go softly. And because I had confidence that no one was going to be injured as long as we took our time and were very careful with the human life. And so softly. And so in the end, we achieved our mission 100 millimeters at a time by hand is how we did it. And so in this way, we didn't disturb the mountain. We didn't cause another avalanche. And we were able, all the men even came out themselves. We didn't even have to have them on stretchers. They were like, hi, great to see you. Can we come in? And they just walked on through. Well, not really walked, but crawled on through. So just in the end, the softly approach is what we did. And also not rushing, just going, it will take as much time as it takes to do this safely and to bring everyone home. And that's what we did.
Can you share with us any other experiences? I mean, this is, you said you're the expert, this is what you do. But, you know, at any point in time in this operation, when the machine from the US, when that machine broke and then there were laser cutters that were, you know, sort of called in to remove the blades, or when vertical drilling started and it said it's going to take another 4 days. I mean, it was a multi-pronged approach. As experts, were you all just trying to use all of the different techniques, perhaps to try and see which one works?
Well, we knew that they could all work. But what we had to do was to balance the various benefits and risks of each one, because at all times, for people who aren't geologically trained, we were receiving a whole lot of information from satellites. We were getting satellite information from actually a Japanese satellite through the Italians. We were getting information from drones doing aerial surveys. We were getting information from surveys and drones inside the tunnel. And what we could see was the mountain is still moving. And so because the mountain's still moving, what we had to do was to avoid another disaster. And so we had to balance all the different options as we went. And that really is, we were under a lot of criticism for how slowly we went. But this was because the group, when we sat together, because our mission was saving life and not letting anyone be hurt, we were very careful in the order and the way in which we did so many things. And you're right. We were building, and we've stopped now, but we were building multiple doors, but we were being very careful how each door affected the other. So, yeah, amazing. It's a really amazing result. But it's consistent with what I said. We were always bringing these people home safe. It was just we weren't really exactly sure how. But we, amongst ourselves, amongst all the experts, we figured out cunning plans, and actually they all failed up until this one, and this one worked. And if this one failed, we had more. We weren't giving up. Okay, that's what the men knew, and that's what we did.
Okay, so you had more plans in place. You know, before I let you go, I just want to ask you, how complicated was this operation? And it's very interesting what you just said, that you had to be very careful in order to avert another tragedy while you were trying to rescue these trapped workers. We've heard a lot of environmentalists talk about how fragile the ecology of the Himalayas is in this particular region where the rescue operation was taking place, where the tunnel collapse was taking place. I'm not going to ask you, questions pertaining to the environment, but I am going to ask you how complicated or how much more difficult was your task given the fragility of the ecosystem that you're dealing with?
One of the prime things we discussed at our meetings was balancing the needs of the people we had to rescue and the needs of the environment. And it was such a serious decision, for example, to build a road to put the vertical drilling rig up on the hill. And we thought long and hard about it because we knew that this would, for example, have an environmental impact. And I think it'd be fair, it was one of those really difficult decisions to make, but we decided that this was what was needed. An example of how we're really worried about the groundwater, because we know that water is so precious in the Himalayas. So we did an enormous amount of work to try and ensure we didn't damage in any way the underground water supplies that would, say, provide water to a well or something like that. And also, now that we're finishing the operations, anywhere where we've created a wound that might injure the water, we're fixing that as well. So actually, mightn't have looked like it, but the environment was really important. And if you look at my background, environment is something that I'm passionate about. So it was something that was very much on our minds as we balanced everything up.
I have to then ask you, Arnold Dix, given the questions that one has asked about the rapid development of several such tunnel projects in Uttarakhand, the government now, perhaps taking a leaf from what's happened in Silkyara, has ordered for each of the under construction tunnels in Uttarakhand to be surveyed. What would your advice be as the expert here, so the federal government in India isn't dialing your number anytime soon, for dreadfully another rescue operation?
Yeah, I think there's an enormous lessons learned here, and I think you'll see very rapid changes to the approach taken, and because we've learned our lesson, and what a way to learn some lessons about the approach to tunnelling. So I'm not sure what I would recommend because I haven't looked closely at that. I've just been focused on saving the lives. But I would expect you to see some changes. And I mean, I've just come up a road to this sacred site and I could see where all the cars had gone off the edge and people had been killed. So I know that putting in better linkages for the pilgrims actually delivers a real benefit to people. Like you get people killed on the road, and also you don't need all the roads winding so much, like all up and down the mountain. So it's a really interesting policy question, and I'm not from here, so I can't offer advice on it. But other to say, I kind of get it, and I'm no easy answer, but I think enormous lessons will be learned.
Enormous lessons will be learned. I heard you, saying in an interview to somebody that you beat us at cricket. But, I have to say thank you on behalf of the entire nation, Arnold Dix, for all of your efforts from day one in winning us back these 41 trapped labourers in what appeared to be almost impossible. On behalf of the entire country, I have to end by saying thank you. Do you have anything to say about your cricketing analogy that you shared earlier?
The cricket, well, we'll play again next year, and when we have a problem in Australia, and when my daughter, she's a tunnel engineer. My daughter could have been in there. So if we have, God forbid, a tunnel accident, and my daughter's on the other side, can someone come and help us? Because we need all the brains we can get to get my daughter out, just like you needed some extra people, some extra eyes to help with your kids.
Well, thank you very much, Arnold Dix, tunnelling expert from Australia, who's been here and working on ground zero since day one. And, he's been, like I said, one of the main brains behind this rescue operation. He's called himself just a cell and of that brain, and he said there were many other people at rescue, but of course one has heard from him through the course of this rescue operation very interesting points that he's made, detailing how there were different strategies that were put in place. And he's also said that rat miners was not where they were going to stop. Had this failed or had this hit a roadblock, they had other strategies up their sleeve, and keeping the fragility of the Himalayas, keeping the fragility of the ecosystem, they went very slowly and very carefully. And when these workers got trapped on Diwali, he estimated or he hoped that they'd be out by Christmas. So by that standard, they've done a fantastic job in ensuring that each of these workers was out in this record 17-day period. If you hear his interview and what all he said about the rescue operation, it is indeed a miracle that they were out on day 17. And like he said, they pretty much crawled out of the tunnel themselves. They didn't have to be brought out on stretchers, but he's given very important advice on how the Indian government, the Uttarakhand government, has to take this as a learning curve, has to learn from what has happened in Silkyara in order to ensure that in the rapid development that is taking place in Uttarakhand, we don't see yet another incident like this taking place. Thank you very much once again for joining us.